And we are live again. It feels like a while. Shooting the Shizz, DK and the Schwag with the 03 Kemper Kill Leatherface. My dude, Brett Wagner. What's going on, brother?
Man, we just did this last week, but it does seem like forever because we were at a wedding. We were at Michael Bailey Smith's wedding over the weekend, which was on point. That was I don't even want to think about how much he spent on that wedding, but you could have probably produced 3 independent movies for the amount of money that he spent on that wedding. But we have a great guest tonight. We're going to get to him in a second. He's sitting there, but we're going to get to him in a second because, John, first off, you have an unboxing we need to get to, a special unboxing, yes?
We do. It's from one of our talented people in the crypt, Lonnie McCollum. You've seen him, Graven Images. He's always posting in the crypt. He's done my Arnold. He does a lot of my Freddy's, all the 3D busts. And he sent me that Maniac cop that we unboxed, and he sent me something else, a prototype.
Oh, really?
I was thinking about my partner in this show, Mr. Schwag.
Really?
He wanted to do an 03.
I hope it's not a live cast of any of my private parts. That would be embarrassing.
I hope not as well. That's why these unboxings can be a little scary.
There was a girl, Cynthia, the plaster caster, back in the 60s and the early 70s. Fritz, Mr. Kiersch probably knows her or knows about her, and she used to do.
There's nothing to cast when it comes to.
Okay, I was just checking. All right, here we go. What do we got? Oh,
famous. She's famous, plastic caster.
She was.
He's a ghost. It's Ghostface.
Cool.
Here we go. Big unboxing, I think, if I can get it here. Let's see. Oh, we got one bag down. Let's go for another here. I certainly don't want to break it before I open it.
No,
but
that would
these
be
are
terrible.
Always fairly sturdy. But I don't want to mess up the Schwags. Oh, wow. This thing
Well, that's great.
Beauty by Lonnie.
That's a great. So, Mr. Kiersch.
Yeah, very cool.
That is me and another actor. I played Leatherface for one of the first kills in the 2003 remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So that is basically a bust of me and the other actor who played Leatherface as well. That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Well, the door slam scene is his favorite scene. He always says that's his favorite scene in the movie, and that's our buddy Mr. Schwag, Brett Wagner, next to me. So that's his favorite scene in the movie. And then killing old Kemper.
That's great. That's a great bust. I might have to see if we can.
We're going to put
that heavy?
We're putting that on your table in Kansas City for sure.
Okay, cool. All right, why don't you introduce the man? He looks very young to be a director of all the things he's directed. I don't know. Maybe it's The Water.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because he grew up in Alpine, Texas. I don't know. But introduce this man so we can get going.
All right. We got the legendary director of a few of my 80s favorites. Stephen King's Children of the Corn from 1984. Can't wait to talk about that, and working with an up-and-coming actress people might have heard of, Linda Hamilton. Also, another big favorite 80s cult movie that I love, Winners Take All. I'm excited to talk about that as well. Mr. Fritz Kiersch. Kiersch. I always
Kiersch. Just Fritz.
I almost had it. Kiersch.
Just Fritz.
Mr. Kiersch, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you here. You are a legend. You've worked with some legends, and we're excited to hear about your journey in directing.
Thank you. It's really nice that you guys are interested in chatting with me for a while. I'm flattered. I got to tell you, that's pretty damn cool. You have more skin in the game than I do. I'm just kind of out parking cars for everybody, taking up time. So it's kind of fun to visit and talk about movies. Though I'll do that all day long. So if there's a timer you want to set and cut the windbag off, please do. But we can talk for hours about film. It's kind of
we got a lot of people here, and I know this young lady is a big fan of yours from Chicago, Summer Flynn from The Dolls of Horror. She was the panel host.
Oh yeah,
Chicago, and she had such a great time talking to you. We got our artist. Speaking of our artist, Michael Toth, we did, because I know we got Indianapolis coming up. we do have a blacklight skateboard Children of the Corn deck going. So we'll probably have a few more things for you guys coming.
You better
Some cool Children of the Corn.
One of the cool things about it, and that's why the four of us, maybe even more, maybe, secrets here. You might see Peter Horton out, or even, Linda. No, I spoke to Linda today, of all people, Linda Hamilton. She's on she's on another project. She's finished the television Strange Things or Stranger Things, I think.
Oh, she's in the new season. Wow.
And so she's off to doing a independent film for a while. But it's the 40th anniversary of Children of the Corn when it came out in March, and 40 years ago. So this is the year to cycle and get out and visit with everybody and sign things and do some things. And we've got a special auction coming up for one item, which I'll tell you about later. We'll just hold out.
I'm excited to hear this.
There's only one of these. It's a very rare piece. It's a real piece. And it came from the mind of the producer for us to do something for charity. So we'll talk about that. It's a secret. You got to break it. No one else has talked about it.
We love one of a kind. We love original one of a kind stuff here. So we're very excited for that.
Well, it's cool. But anyway,
let's talk a little bit about, you're born in Alpine, Texas. Were you into movies and TV as a kid, or what drove you and got you into being the creative guy that wanted to be a director?
Well, I don't know if I could actually go back. I actually grew up in New York, so my father was a professor. So he taught in a number of different universities and colleges and things, and we ended up in the East Coast for the majority of my growing up, my formative years in upstate New York. And within our family, as a child of a professional and academic, everyone had to go to law school. Everybody had to be a doctor. Everybody had to be a lawyer. Everybody had to achieve, the ultimate in terms of professional status and so forth. And I wasn't really interested in that. And I got interested in looking at films, and particularly through doing radio shows in ninth grade. We had our own high school radio program every week. And so we would write plays and we would do stupid things on the radio. It was broadcast every Saturday morning. And that gave me and a few of my friends an interest in doing performance. And we just went on and we did more and more. And then when I got to university, I did not want to really take the track to get me into law school. So I studied economics to please my parents, and then took a lot of art courses, which included making motion pictures. I kind of snuck them in. So I had finished all the courses in economics at a very fast pace. So my last year at university was really all film classes. And I made up classes. No one else had them. So I just did independent studies, and I started making films and decided that's what I'll do. I'll go to Los Angeles and go to graduate school. I'll go into cinema right after that. So I waited through the summer, and then I went out to Los Angeles, but I never really applied to the universities. I just went.
To keep the parents happy. Yeah, I'm applying everywhere.
So I went out, and my sister was out there, one of my sisters, and I lived in her garage for a while, and she was at UCLA. So I used to ride over with her, and then I would just take the classes. I'd sit in them, and they'd say, "Who the fuck are you?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm the Duke. I'm Fritz Kiersch, and I have a question." They say, "But you're not on the enrollment rolls. Who are you?" And I would just sit in the classes, and I watched hours of American silent films with a live organ accompanist at the time. And I sat in literature classes about film and snuck into production on the stage and did things. And finally, they just said, "We don't know who you are. You can't be here." So I started to work, and I got jobs making TV commercials, running errands. And that was it. I was around the process. And I thought I was, a full-on movie maker, and yet all I was doing was finding filters over at the camera things and getting cameras and learning about different processes. And I eventually became an assistant camera person. And I worked for Caleb Deschanel for a year or so, a huge cinematographer. And being the windbag and being the know-it-all, I started to tell people, well, you have to do this and that. And they finally said, well, if you know that much, then you do it. You go make it. And so they gave me a chance to go start shooting and making commercials. And eventually that gave me a reel, made more friends. People said, you know how to do this. And the producer of Children of the Corn, Terry Kirby, and I worked together in this company where we made commercials for national spots for all kinds of people. And he and I decided we'll make our own TV commercial company. So I found a client, which was kind of like a Target store company in Southern California and Arizona. And we did video commercials, like 15 in a day. And, this is, new back to school clothes, or this is the bike on sale, and all those kind of crappy things. And we just kept building up, and we made our own commercials, fake commercials, to show people we could do better things. Products that didn't have commercials, we won awards for. I don't know how we did it. And eventually it got me a chance to be introduced to people who made features. And this one, Children of the Corn, was the first feature that was offered to me. And I said, well, how do you do that? Sure, okay, I'll go do that. And off Terry and I went, literally. After talking with a few people, after the weekend, we got in a plane and we flew around the country and found places to shoot, and ended up in South Dakota, I think. That's where we ended up making the film.
What was that feeling like when you finally got this big full-length feature film? I mean, I can only imagine how you felt. I mean, was it like?
I think it was 29 or something, or 30 years old, and my head was so big I couldn't get through the doorways. I mean, I thought I was the big dog. I was out. I want a sandwich, and I want the crust cut off, and I want rip the potato chips, and I want all these things, and bring them to me. And people just said, "Who is this clown?" But we Terry and I pretty much just worked with the people that had been loyal to us when we made commercials, people we owed favors to that had done favors for us, working on these fake commercials for no price, no fees. And so we kind of gathered our old team, and we went up, and we just worked 24 hours a day at making this film and just dedicated everything to it. We were exhausted. We had a great time. It was a great experience. A lot of making it up on the day, on the spot.
Well, Wikipedia is way off, because they said you're from Alpine, Texas. They said Children of the Corn was shot in Iowa.
Is it shot in Iowa? I thought it was shot. I think it is shot in Iowa. Maybe right at the end.
And there was one scene. It says one scene only was shot somewhere else.
Well, I'm thinking the exact spot. I went 2 years ago. I was invited to go back to the location and do a walk and talk, meet people, and do kind of a convention with like 200 people. And we went to the locations. We were in what would be the west south corner. Or I think, I guess it was Iowa. It was across the river was South Dakota. I think that's what it was. We were in.
I do believe. Yes, Iowa does. Does have a thing with that, but
South Dakota.
And I'm not one to correct you. I'm correcting Wikipedia.
No,
I'm correcting those folks. Those bad.
Right. No.
So this is. So what's so amazing is your first feature. You got some heavy-duty people that become major actors. Was Terminator shot before you guys, or was Linda Hamilton in yours first?
So this is kind of fun. Again, I was just, I had good networks, good networking, so to speak, from making television commercials. In making this film, the guy who worked for us making TV commercials, Don Borchers, whose name is on the film as a producer, was really the studio guy at New World, just at the time when New World was a brand new company. It had been purchased by these two lawyers from Roger Corman. They didn't buy anything except the name New World Pictures. They had no library. They didn't have anything. So they went out on that, raised a lot of funds for development and to manufacture products. And so Children of the Corn was one of the first 4 or 5 films they did. And Don had worked for Terry and me in commercials. He was like a production manager for us. And so he came to us after he got the job at New World and said, okay, you guys, you know how to do things cheap, fast, you're terrific. Here's 3 films, pick one. What would you like to make? One of them was Corn. Another was the Philadelphia Experiment. And another one was, I think, was like Girls Want to Have Fun or something. I said, well, Stephen King, I mean, that's cool as hell. This is big time. Are you sure? So I went in, I met the guys, we talked about George Romero and how cool he is. And then on Monday we left and we went looking for locations. And it was because of Don and knowing Don and having an offer to do something at a reasonable price or a contained product. And then again, with all these people that I had been making commercials with who said, I'll sign up, let's go. So we had a great group of people, all friends, and we got to do it. But you're right. We did go to Iowa, Sioux City, outside of Sioux City, and quite a bit in Los Angeles, pickup shots afterward. A lot of close-up work.
Now, let's talking about Stephen King. I mean, Stephen King was a powerhouse at that point. I mean, 1984. I mean, was there any nerves at all for you, or you were just so excited? Let's go.
No, this was just another commercial. This was a long-form commercial. This was a narrative that I was able to get into that was just like shooting every day. I knew what I was doing. I had storyboards. I had the script in my head. I had ideas. We had holes that we needed to fix, particularly in what the monster looked like and how the monster was going to operate and these kind of things, what the threat really was. But Stephen King didn't scare me at all because he wasn't there, if this makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure. The guys who scared me were like the actors. How do I ask you to do something? You know, I don't know your craft. You know, I know how to say, that's good tasting tuna, you know, take a bite. But to sustain an emotional moment or something was challenging for me at that time. But King, no, I never met him. We got one letter from him after we were done, and he did not like the film at all. You know, it's too bad.
He never likes any of the films that are, you know, he never likes his books and films, it seems.
Yeah, that's what I understand. But at the same time, he had tried. See, some of perhaps my beliefs in why he may not have liked the film was that this was a film that he wanted to make. And the script had circulated in Los Angeles for a long time. And it had been originally purchased and optioned by Hal Roach, the Little Rascals guy.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And so he was trying to use it to reinvigorate, reinvent, reestablish, reimagine the Little Rascals. Not cool. So nobody wanted it. It wasn't making sense. And New World got a hold of it based on the idea of Stephen King and horror and had a new writer put a spin on it. And that's what we did. And we all worked on the story with the writer, condensed it into what it became, and then went out and shot that. So it wasn't really his script anymore. It was this other writer, George.
It became a different film. It used the substance of the story, but it became its own thing. Trying to make a film around Stephen King's stories and his writing, it's especially with the technology back then, it's next to impossible.
Yeah,
you know, I find with most of his films, whether it's it or some of the other ones, it's just hard to complete the movie. It just is the way, you know, it's so hard to end it, but it's always a good, I mean, what you guys did with Children of the Corn, I think was amazing. And it had to be one of the first Stephen King books to film type deal. I'm trying to think what was before.
Carrie was out. Carrie had been out.
Yep.
I think Shining actually had been out before it. The Car.
Christine.
Yeah, there are quite a few that were in the marketplace already that preceded ours, but we worked at a much, much more reduced scale budget. Yeah. You know, we were literally under $1 million disposable. You know, a lot of money went into him and to advertising and some of the other overhead costs. But for Terry and me, we had a bag of cash that was under $1 million, so to speak. And that made
it made a hell of a movie for $1 million. Yeah. Now, working with the kids, you were working with a lot of. So first movie, here you are, you're pumped up, and now all of a sudden you're thrust into. I mean, as an actor, I've worked with children before. That doesn't sound right, but I've done a lot of Disney films and Nickelodeon stuff. So I mean, kids can be a handful. How was that working with the kids?
They were terrific, and of course we had doubles, triples, and we went to Iowa with a minimal per diem crew and hired a lot locally, particularly on the extras and the atmosphere people. They were all out of Sioux City's theater community. And so anytime we could, we would double the children, shoot from behind, have the kids go into school and recreation and do the regular by law requirements to manage their days. But if you closely study the film, you'll see that the children are rotated constantly and the wardrobe looks the same and you think it's the child that it should be, one of the actors, but it's really another child. So it was a constant, you know, every 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Okay, who's the next one? Okay, now what do we have to do? We have to, you know, put a shadow over their head so we can't see them, that kind of stuff.
The secret to filmmaking. I mean, that's true because, you work with, I don't even know, I think it's even if they're 17 years old, they have to have the school, you have to have school while you're filming. So they have a teacher there, John, that'll take the kids and, okay, let's go do an hour or 2 hours of class, and then they get to go back and shoot. You're only allowed to have the children on the set, and maybe Fritz, you will know, I don't know how many hours it is, but they're only allowed to shoot a certain amount of hours.
Yeah, it all depends on their age.
Yeah.
So let's say up to like an infant is 20 minutes total for the day, something like that. It's ridiculously short.
Wow.
And then as you get a little older, 2, 3, 5-year-old elementary level, you get an hour, 2 hours. You get to about 12, and I think you can have a child work on camera like 4 hours out of their 10-hour day. The rest of the time is school and recreation and other free time. Over age 12, I think you get 6 hours out of the day, up until about 18 years old, and then you're closer to a full 10-hour day. So the rotation was based on how much time is left for each child to work. So you would shoot the close-ups of the children and send them back to school, and then bring in the doubles for the over-the-shoulder work. And you could work with them for half an hour, but you only could bring in the on-camera talent for, 10, 15 minutes at a time. Then bingo, they're gone. Oh, that one's actually 12. They get to stay an extra 20 minutes. That one's 14. They can stay. So it was a math game. Besides the corn dying all the time, everything was kind of a shuffle,
Yeah, the corn don't stay around too long. You got to work around.
No.
Well, you also got people that paint their crops
too.
Oh yeah, they painted them because Terry and I, we looked at the corn. I think it was June. We got the assignment. We took the film and got in the airplanes and drove around and looked at beautiful cornfields and settled on Iowa, and then went back to shoot in September and didn't think, Farmer's Almanac, this shit dies.
Sometimes it's those little things.
Yeah. So fields are not fields of corn anymore. And by the day they were going yellow and falling over and being harvested. So again, it was another chase. So it was fun.
I'm sure you learned a whole lot on that experience right there.
A lot. Yeah.
I'm guessing, especially with the lower budget, and you guys produced a very high budget looking film, and it's white. So I'm guessing you had some really smart people along with yourself that were like, we can do this a more cheaper way, more practical way. And I thought the practical effects were fantastic. I thought some of the scenes with the kids and when they're killing, pretty brutal.
It was, and lots of that was done as additional photography in Los Angeles when we had more time and more control, and we did not have to have the actual children. We could just use stand-ins, hands, and different body parts to indicate the kids. But it is difficult. Some of the mechanical things were thought up on the day, like the thing in the ground. That is a ditch that I had dug after I saw a wheelbarrow and realized that if you turned the wheelbarrow over, it was a hump. Right? You just take the metal carriage part of it, take the wheels and the handles off, and that becomes a hump. And next to it was a tractor. And I literally thought, son of a bitch, this is what we do. You dig a hole, put the thing in the ground, we'll get some wire and tie it to the tractor and literally pull that thing on a track that goes up and down. And you cover the hole we did with a tarp and put vermiculite on it. So when the hump came up, being pulled, it created that mound. And we just did it. We just repeated that. It was maybe 15 feet long. That's all it was.
Brilliant, though. I mean, that's really brilliant. Some of the simple, like some of the things I've seen some of the production designers and stuff, and the stuff that you guys do, and it's like the way you guys make it look so amazing, and then you find out how you did it. It's like, wow, that's just really creative. Really creative how to do it.
It was hard, but it was fun, and this is why. Working with people making commercials with the same level of energy and inventiveness, and okay, we can't afford that. How do we get what we want without having the money to spend on the proper tool? If you remember the film at all, in any of it, there's an early scene where the little girl who is somewhat clairvoyant is drawing images, And she's in bed in fever, under a fever spell, and she's drawing out things, and the camera's above and it swoops down on her, down on the picture, to emphasize the beginning of the story. And then I believe it goes to titles. This is just shortly after the town is wiped clean of adults, and she is, broadcasting and forecasting this. We could not, in the practical location, have any kind of fancy equipment to give us a camera boom, so we invented a 2x4 on a stand and tilted it like a lever and put the camera at one end, and that did it. So,
great opening scene.
We didn't have much, I'll put it that way. And I think a lot of really cool films. Look at Romero's work. It is really cool, handheld. Let's just record the content. Forget technology. It's about the content of the image. So
you're talking about Romero. I mean, I got into being an actor because Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, 1978. That were two of my favorite movies of all time. And was Romero? You're a big fan of Romero, I take it. Was there any other guys?
At the time, well, Clockwork Orange has always been one of my favorite films. There's genius in terms of structure and narrative, and not just in performance and the futuristic. That's out of the from the writer's stuff, but how that film was structured and how it's shot and how clean it is. And it's a static film. It's not got a lot of movement and camera movement. It's got a lot of proscenium, straightforward. Let's watch the content. And when you look at the design within that content, Kubrick's images are just you can read the image. That and Romero's just show me content taught me a lot when I was in college about how to do this. And then that you make TV commercials and you talk about what does that image say, and you have to be specific with what's in your frame. So it was a good education, I would say. Those guys, Romero's great.
Yeah, everybody. I never got a chance to meet him. Unfortunately, I know Brett did. I have a lot of friends who have met him over the years, before he unfortunately passed, and what a great guy he was and how good he was to everybody. So, yeah, I really missed out on that one.
They loved him in Pittsburgh, I got to say. In Pittsburgh, my gosh, every person I met in the film community in Pittsburgh was, in awe of him and beholden to him because he gave them their chance to do certain things.
Well, if you look at, you can still to this day, you can take someone that's never seen a horror movie, and you can throw on 1967, Night of the Living Dead, and that movie, even if you have seen behind the scenes and if you look, you can say, wow, they cut corners. That movie is still scary to this day for someone that's never, I watch it a couple times a year, and there's still parts in it that scare me, and that's a testament to the man.
Yeah. He understood about human psychology. What are we afraid of? What makes us afraid? And that's the cool stuff. Art's knowing what to leave out. The guy was really good at it.
I gotta say, Children of the Corn, especially with children actors, it can be real hit or miss. But I thought the cast you had of kids,
right.
Courtney Gaines, obviously, we're going to talk about him some more because you worked with him again, I'm guessing, because of Children of the Corn, and you had such a good experience. And I could tell you and him are still close to this day. So that'll be something we'll talk about. But what a great cast, John Franklin.
They're really good.
The cast was stellar.
Linda is great. Like I said, I just talked to her today to do something, ask her a favor. Peter Horton, I've spoken with a number of times over the years. He's
tremendous actor.
Horton is responsible for a fantastic television show, New Amsterdam, executive producer of that. He's just kicking it in TV. He's coming up with socially relevant programming, and he's a really smart man. And Courtney, John Franklin, John Philbin, the Robbie Kiger, and everybody, and Julia Maddalena, the little girl whose name I can't remember. They were all good, partly because of Linda Francis. She was the casting agent.
Casting director, yeah.
The late Linda Francis, who we all enjoyed and looked to. I worked with her on 3 films, I think, 2 or 3. Tough Turf. She introduced me to
that today. I like that.
To Bob Downey and Robert Downey Jr. and Jimmy Spader and Kim Richards.
Great.
So,
The Stranger.
So I want to see what about the hoopla. So the movie came out, Children of the Corn. You're doing the premieres. I don't even remember. I was I think, and I was in the 10th grade. I don't want to say that, but 1984. I graduated high school in 1986. But I remember I went and saw it right away, and because I'm a horror movie guy, and I was blown away. What did the critics and everybody else think about your movie, Children of the Corn?
To this day, my favorite comment about my filmmaking is he's the hack's hack. And I thought that's pretty good. I've hit the bottom.
Was it Siskel or Ebert who said that? Because they
they actually said nice things. So did Billy Bob. They said nice things, but someone who was a little bit more intellectually centered did not think what we did. But you see, at the time, the film was presented as a competition to the slick studio products. It was marketed and presented in the same kind of trumpet that a big studio product gets in its marketing efforts. So it was all over television. Everybody was ready to go see it and so forth. But my goal in making the film was to make more of a tribute to the B movie. So I pushed the actors in a way that got them to act a little bit more melodramatically, a little bit more unorganic, we'll call it, in the world today. It's just not real performance. They were a little stiff and so forth at times. The effects were, mechanical and cheap, and that looked more like B movie making and stuff, because I wanted to make a tribute to that particular category of genre product. You can't compete with the big ones, so you have to do something different. And so the people who looked at the film,
we get a little bit of lag on you, Fritz.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
There you are.
So some of the comments were really bad. Some of them were good. The people that like horror and jumped in and said, yeah, this is cool for what it is. Like Billy Bob, Drive-In Billy Bob, and others. But
you know what? 40 years later, and this movie's still, a legacy. It's a cult. I wouldn't even say it's a cult movie, because everybody knows the movie. Every horror fan, for the most part, has seen that movie. It's on their list. To leave that kind of legacy, your first full-length film, that's got to really blow you away. Are you surprised that it still has lasted with the love
Completely.
and the fandom it has? It's grown even more in the 40 years. And now you got, my kids and their kids now that are watching it. I remember it was a big part of my childhood. Me and my sisters, we'd fight all the time. But when we'd watch a movie like Children of the Corn, it was a good time and great memories for us. It was really, really important to us. So I thank you for that.
Well, it's crazy. It's funny you say that, John, insofar as going to these fan conventions and the ones that we're both going to go to in the coming months. People talk about their experiences and what the film did. And I had no idea over the years that it had the impact and still continues. I've heard stories of people getting married because they saw the film together, or people with tattoos of characters that they got because of the film. Or one man learned English. He was from South America, and he watched the film so many times, he read the book, and that taught him English. And he came to the United States, and then he introduced his family to us, to John.
Oh, that's awesome.
John. We all went, you got to be kidding me. So, yeah, that's the cool part. If you impact and you have a responsibility as a filmmaker to share and impact people in a positive way, that's pretty cool. To do things where you make a film and you're just blowing people up, shooting guns and teaching people how to rob banks and whatever illegal things. I don't know if that's the responsibility we should have, but when you do something that impacts people, it's pretty cool.
Well, do you ever feel like a proud papa though too? I mean, a lot of your cast that you've worked with early on, like we've mentioned, Courtney has gone on to some amazing roles, had an amazing career since Children of the Corn. Winners Take All was one of my all-time favorites. But I mean, The Burbs he was in. What was it? Can't Buy Me Love. I mean, there's just so many great films that man was in.
Colors is great. Courtney is fantastic in this. I don't know if you know this, but Courtney is a Los Angeles kid. He grew up in Echo Park. He grew up in the gang neighborhood, and he lived Colors. I mean, he was in that kind of environment as a kid. And
I think that's what scared me about him in The Children of the Corn is you could tell even at that age he was a badass kid. He was a tough kid. You could tell in that movie that he was genuine. I mean, he genuinely gave a scary presence on screen, just like Jonathan Franklin did as Isaac, even though he was small. Just his attitude and having Courtney next to him, Malachi. It's I don't know. Their chemistry was fantastic in that movie. But you've worked with Linda Hamilton, that one. I mean, you go to Tough Turf, Robert Downey Jr., James Spader. I mean, you've worked with some amazing people. And when they were first starting, and now you just watched them become what they are. So I imagine the director, kind of that father role in a sense, it's got to feel like being a proud dad.
I wish I could say that. We all just. You meet people, you recognize the quality in them. You're after a particular outcome, and here somebody walks in, and wow, this is going to make it all work, and it's cool. And there's a lot of other actors who did wonderful roles in the films that I've been able to be part of that people don't know as well as those who have been in the right place at the right time and that just blew up, like Downey. He's a fantastic guy. I haven't seen him in a long time, but when we did see each other in Los Angeles, he was just like an old friend, and you just don't know what's going to happen, but they're all good.
I mean, from coming off of Children of the Corn to all of a sudden you're working with, Hollywood's young elite in Tough Turf. I mean, what was that experience? I mean, you just did a horror movie. Now all of a sudden, let's give you three of the biggest actors at that age, at that time, the 80s, part of the Brat Pack. What was it like working with those guys?
Well, they weren't necessarily part of anything until we got them onto the film. That's when they exploded. Bob Downey had done some stuff with his dad, like Putney Swope and Pound and things as a child actor, but he really wasn't very well exposed. He actually read for the role that Spader took and did. He read for the hero. And in seeing that, I just said, that guy's funny. He's not the serious, tough guy with the emotional problems and family issues. He's a comedian. He's fantastic. What a genius this kid is. Let's have him do that role. And Spader had been in one film, I think, as a third banana. But he brought into the room, in talking with him about the script and the story and the role, he brought that prep school upper middle class kind of quality, a little starchy collar, kind of button down kind of guy, which was very cool because that's what you wanted, because it contrasted with the new environment, the kind of downsized environment the story takes him into. So yeah, they were just, and then they exploded. That film did really well and got them a lot of exposure.
Wasn't Weird Science right after that? I think right after Tough Turf. I think it was right after it.
It could have been, yeah.
That was it was kind of the same kind of role where he wasn't the main character, but he just stood out so much. I mean, no matter what, that dude is he's always been a scene stealer. Any film I've watched that man in, he's a scene stealer.
Because he's inventive. He's thinking, he's genuine and full. He's not there just to say the next word. Oh, it's my turn to speak. These are my lines. He's actually engaged in the conversation from the other players. And so he reacts very, very organically and smoothly to the situation. And he doesn't necessarily think about, it's my turn to speak. And so, yeah, he's just cool. He's a funny man. He's very cool.
I always enjoyed him when I was younger. And then when, I know he went through his troubles, but seeing him go to Iron Man, I was like one of those dudes who was always rooting for the guy because I was always such a fan of his acting. And like you said, the comedy, it's not like he's a stand-up comedian type comedy, but he just has that funny personality that, no matter what, he brings energy, excitement, fun, smiles. You just can't help but smile around the guy. Even when he was kind of the bad guy in the movie in Weird Science, it's like, he's hilarious, though. You can't not like the guy.
I wish I was their age and had their success at that time. I think Hollywood would have been absolutely just an open door of fun and exciting things. But I was a little older, and I didn't want to get into all that kind of stuff. That wasn't for me. But oh man, those guys have done really well. They're remarkable. So Yeah.
Now, another movie I got to move on to. I know Brett hasn't seen this one, but this was a big part of my childhood. 87, 11 years old. My parents wouldn't buy me a dirt bike. Rick Mellon, Team Hurricane, Winners Take All. I love that movie. I don't care. I thought it was great. As an 11-year-old kid watching dirt bikes, the RM was my favorite. The Suzuki RM. And Rick Mellon was driving it until he, Team Hurricane had to burn down his bike. But rewatched it today again, man. I swear I've seen that movie probably about 50 times when I was a kid. I owned it. I'd rent it every weekend. And I thank you for this film as well.
Well, that's funny. There's a man, Courtney Gaines told me when I saw him last month at one of the conventions in Chicago when we met 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, that there's a man in Germany that actually has a Winners Take All museum.
Wow.
He has all kinds of memorabilia and artifacts and things, and he wanted to talk about, do I have any storyboards or anything like that left over in the garage? I mean, some people just walk up out of the blue and say, yeah, it was one of the best motorcycle race films they've ever seen.
Oh, but for 11, 12-year-old kid, 8 years, I mean, it was just cool. It was just really cool. And I'll tell you, even watching it today, Peter DeLuise and Courtney Gaines, I mean, their comic relief added so much, and they were so good together. So good.
They were fun. They're fun. Now, Don Michael Paul, the hero in the story,
Rick Mellon,
is a terrific director.
Oh,
he makes a huge number of films like Tremors 3 and 4 and 5 and a lot of action product. Universal has a big company called 1400 or 1442 or something, and they put out a lot of sequels for their big titles for home entertainment. And Don is pumping out product, and he's really good at it. He's really good at it. You should see some of his
work. Here he's still doing it, and I didn't realize he was behind Tremors 3 and 4 and all these great films. I mean, those are a lot of fun. The Tremors series in general is a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's doing it, and Courtney is still doing it. I haven't seen DeLuise. Robert Krantz, who plays the bad guy, makes faith-based films in Los Angeles, and he's fantastic. I've talked to him a few times in the last couple of months about things, particularly in the faith-based area, which is a huge market. And he's just doing it. He comes up with the ideas, he casts it, he finances it, he goes out and he sells it to the community, and he's a fantastic actor as well. So yeah, there are a lot of people that have kind of been able to be around. But that was a fun film. Got a lot of cool products out of it. Everybody got a motorcycle.
I was wondering how that was. I could see that being a blast. I mean, it's a dirt bike film. You got pretty girls, a great cast, cool motorcycles, cool tracks, cool locations.
We need you to do another film about Harleys and 69 Camaros so we can get some.
I'm on the 69 Camaros right away. The Harleys I'll just look at, because I don't know if Brent, have you ever ridden those race bikes?
Of course.
The 125 all tuned up. They are dangerous little suckers, and they'll go up on you, just touch them. So I thought I knew about motorcycles. I'm not getting on those things again. They're crazy. But yeah, the manufacturers donated a lot of stuff to the film.
It's awesome. That's always a plus. Now you've directed a lot. You've done a lot. Your resume speaks for itself. But I snuck in. I was looking on IMDb, and I saw a couple episodes of Swamp Thing when it was on the TV series when it was on TV. Yes, a little Swamp Thing action.
This is me as a film fan. All right. Now, nothing against the comic book series. I mean, it's damn cool, particularly the early Swamp Things. I can't remember the name of the actor. Dick
Murdoch.
Wasn't Dick Miller, who played the Swamp Thing? Who played
Dick Murdoch?
Yeah, Dick Murdoch. He owned the suit, the rubber sponge suit, and everything, and he was the guy. And anyway, I was approached through agents to do this series out of Universal. And I thought, okay, cool. It's a studio product. This sounds like good TV. We'll go do it. And then I learned about actually how it was. It was really a syndicated product. And then it got a little worse. But the reason I really did it was Joe Stefano was the executive producer, and Joe Stefano wrote Psycho. And so I could go have lunch every day with Joe Stefano. And I said, I'll do this. if I can hang out with this guy who worked with Hitchcock, I will do it. And yeah, that's what we did. We went to Florida and worked on the Universal lot. We were kind of an attraction. We were making a film for people to watch the process while they visited the lot. So nobody really put a lot of interest in the outcome. And I find cut, let's go talk, Joe. Tell me about how Hitch did this and that and that. And they said, no, you have to go to work. And say, yeah, fine. But Mr. Stefano, how about this, this, and this? I mean, Joe Stefano, huge.
You must have learned a lot with him. Just
he
the
was very
experience and
cool,
the stories. Yeah. I mean,
just a mellow senior guy at the time.
I mean, the people that you've said you've worked with and the people we've seen on screen that you've worked with, I mean, that's just amazing. And the 40 years of film, of being a director of major films and then the commercials before that, you've had an amazing run. And I just watched Surveillance today. That was the movie I bought from you as well. And, I'm a big fan of Armand Sante. He's fantastic. He's fantastic in any role. And he definitely delivered in that film. He's delivered in that film. Yeah, he seems like a cool
dude. John, you're talking about, like, I've made films for 40 years. Starting in the middle 70s when I started commercials in Los Angeles and doing that stuff. I'll start that as the beginning of the years. But in 2000, I left Los Angeles and I got talked into the academic world and teaching college. And so for 20 years, I literally taught college. And the man who talked me into it was someone I met in Los Angeles, Gray Fredrickson, who produced The Godfathers and Apocalypse Now with Al Ruddy. He's a major domo. He was an Oklahoma man who wanted to live here so his children would grow up properly and not in Beverly Hills and the silliness that he didn't care for. So when he got here in 1999, the state wanted to develop the economics better, and film was a great smokeless industry to build economic value in the state. So he talked me into coming out here and starting a college program of study to do and train the labor force, to do just that and train the labor force. And so we wrote incentives and we built up the industry. And in doing that, had a company and we made a couple of films. We made them with students. Surveillance was one. The Hunt was another. That was a spring break film. We went out in the woods and shot. And Surveillance was another 14-day kind of over Christmas in a mall here in town. And the students were really doing the crew work.
That's awesome.
I think we're like that. I mean, it's really cool. And we're gonna make sure if we can, if you have any links, I can send our fans to. And make sure they pick up some copies of some movies you have that might have for sale. We'll make sure we drop that in the links afterwards. We'll drop it in the Doomsday's Crypt group and we'll post it in the chat and everything.
Cool.
Now you are reunited with Courtney Gaines and you're in the new film. What is it? The Poisonous Tree.
Fruit of the Poisonous Tree. It's a legal term. It means if the evidence is illegal, if the evidence was collected illegally, the police just take some evidence. Everything that evidence provides is disregarded. So this is a film, a Serpico film that happened, true real story about a cop who got caught and discovered this huge network of people that were police officers doing even worse things. And so that's what we're making. Yeah.
Reed Davies, Bo Bridges. I mean, you got some very cool people in this movie. Now that hasn't been made yet, right? We're in pre-production.
Yeah, pre-production. We going to New Mexico probably August, last of August. Our lead, Willa Fitzgerald, who was in House of Usher for Amazon. She took
great
the role.
Great series.
She and Mary McDonald. Old high school friend, by the way, fantastic. But Willa took this lead role that the whole series is built around her. Netflix is making a medical drama series called Pulse. So it was all about her. So we said, let's just wait for her because she'll be huge after that. And she's already agreed to do the film. So we'll just hang and it'll be a little bit better weather there. And financially, it's better in New Mexico right now. The deals are really
great.
Good. Yeah.
There's you're gonna kill me if I don't say his name right, and I just did something for him. New Mexico with Amazon, with Netflix, shooting in Albuquerque, shooting in Santa Fe, and everything up there. The tax breaks are amazing. You just can't you can't beat it. Jim Burleson. So Jim is a producer out there and a locations guy, by the way, as well. And he runs the biggest Comic-Con out there as well, Albuquerque Comic-Con. So great guy, and he knows his stuff, and he's worked with everybody out there. So yeah, I mean, I personally myself would love to move out to New Mexico because of all the filming that's out there, and you can get tired of LA real quick.
The boss ain't gonna let you move, Brett.
Well, I'd like to. You know, I definitely would like to. Yeah, you've. You know, I don't know if you remember this, but your first movie award, Brussels International Festival of Fantasy Film for Children of the Corn. I just wanted to bring a little history up there, jog your memory.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The bronze or whatever it was. No, it's a grand prize.
Fantasy film.
Bronze. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. I don't look much at those pictures, those awards, those kind of things. But yeah, that
question for you. You're filmmaking still, and you've been filmmaking and doing commercials for over 40 years, probably closer to 50 now. It's changed so much the way filmmaking is done. Is there more positives you see the way it is to get a movie made, or more negatives in filmmaking today for you?
Filming it to make a film now is much harder, much harder than it was when I started. And by example, Corn, let's use that, which, you know, that was my entree into all of it. I was invited to discuss the product, the script with the studio. And I thought I would meet a number of people as I understood Hollywood movie making, the studio system worked. You go to a big boardroom and there'd be a bunch of people and so forth. There was one guy, and we talked about things. He was one of the lawyers that had just acquired New World, and we talked about things. And the questions, I remember one in particularly, and Brent, you'll like this. Who's your favorite horror director? George Romero. Okay, you'll do the job for us. Shake hands. It was a 45-minute meet. Shake hands. I went downstairs, called Terry Kirby and said, Kirby, I think we have a movie to make. You want to go to, we got to go. And so we drank a beer together and talked about how we do it. And then we went and we did it. It was a handshake, go make the movie, and everything is cool. Now, over the years, it's turned from the one person into 5, into a body of 12 people, each representing marketing or distribution or sales or merchandising or transmedial division, or how we're going to digitize, how we can turn it into a book or an opera, etc. And each of them have questions, and it's a round robin. And, you know, that becomes complicated. Taking a product like I'm making with Courtney now, and we approach an Amazon and they put it through a electronic algorithmic evaluation. How many minutes will be this kind of scene? How many minutes will be that kind of scene? How many that? So it's dehumanized the decision process. It's no longer one person. It is a manufacturing exercise. And so your business acumen must be very good to go make films today. You have to talk not like a filmmaker, but more as an entrepreneur who will make and generate a revenue for some company, a large company. It's much harder. It really is.
Yeah, it's a shame. What a shame. Is there, so obviously I would imagine you still watch movies and read books. Is there anybody out there right now that, or the last couple of years, that you thoroughly enjoy what they make and how they direct?
That's a really good question. I haven't really thought about who's turning my head, because I spend so much time looking at Turner Classic Movies, particularly the silent films on Sunday night. I mean, the Germans and the Swedes from 1927 made some of the best films. The Italians and the French, they're the coolest. And the technology they used was very simple, but it just is excellent. And how they expressed without words, it's just phenomenal. And they're true movie makers. Those are the guys that are teaching me the most now, and the ones I admire the most. Discovering some of those early pieces of cinema and saying, wow, I had no idea. Look how cool that is edited. Look at the composition. Look how different this is. There's some Japanese filmmakers that whose name I can't pronounce from the 60s that are very cool, who made some very jazzy, punky films. Shoot. I'll get back to you on which
Korea's been killing it with the films lately. I was talking to
Yeah.
Beatrice too about that. Korea has been doing some amazing films. I mean, they are really doing something different and unique. And I don't know. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch some of these new Korean zombie films and whatnot. But they are really, really well done. If you haven't watched, what was it? Train to Busan.
Train to Busan,
That's a great one, right?
Oh yes, yes. I've seen that. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
and there's a few others out there. I can't remember the name. It's on Netflix. It was a series that was out there. They did the Squid Games, which was great, but there was another zombie. I mean, they're just doing some amazing things out there in Korea. Like that's my favorite filmmaking place. If I hear there's a movie or a horror movie coming out in Korea, I want to watch it just because they're usually really, really good.
Well, there's a lot more places now that you can. There's a lot more places that your movies can land, right? With Tubi and some of the some of these other streaming apps. So the young filmmaker, someone that's it's got inspired by Children of the Corn. I mean, they have an avenue to go out and make a movie.
Well, and they don't need. You're challenged by the technology. And years ago, you were challenged by the costs. The technology being a large part of it. Now the labor is what costs more than the technology because you don't need as much technology because so much of the work can be done in a computer after the fact. Gather the evidence, more or less the shots, and then you can manipulate, where before you had to do it while you were making the film through filtration and movements and all kinds of things. But now the digital world is really been the great tool, and it democratized the process. A lot of people can now go out and make their own films without having a huge bankroll behind it. And that's where these films are showing up. And if people are doing them unconventionally, forget the rules of the classic Hollywood structure. Go do something cool and try it. Put it together. Lars von Trier, do you look at his work? I don't know, School of Dogma, that kind of stuff. He made a film, The Boss of Bosses, I think it's called. And he used a computer-assisted camera that would randomly select the framing. So he and the cinematographer would put into the computer some kind of coordinates and some kind of data, and the camera would, this is the shot. And the actors would go about doing whatever they're doing, whether they were on camera or not. So sometimes, it's half a face or this or that because the camera just chose the shot without human involvement. However, when it is organized, assembled, it's a fantastic film. You don't care that people are cut out of the picture. It's just so jarring and so neat. There's more emotion in it. There's more voice. That's why just give me camera, give me film. Let's go. We don't need a lot of stuff anymore. I think people should follow the Koreans and just go for the content.
I think there's the indie community out here in America is starting to grow. I mean, I don't know how much you know about the Terrifier 1 and 2. That was a $30,000 for the first one. I think $250,000 for the second one. Those guys are doing some amazing things. We've got quite a few friends in the indie community that are really ready to launch. So yeah, there is really cool ways for these filmmakers to get their foot in the door without being with a major company and getting something new and creative out there. And it's got to be fun for you teaching these kids and doing the classes too, because you get a lot of that, all these different ideas and creative ideas that you can do something with, where compared to if you were dealing with Hollywood and these companies, you're so limited in what you can and can't do. In a sense, it's controlled.
The complications that have come up for the filmmaker today in the world of business and the community of making commercial film are huge. It's very difficult to go out as a new person, but the community of independent filmmakers who just say, give me film, give me camera, I'm going to go shoot it, and they make it, they unfortunately are leaving out the major step. And this is one of the things stressed in the classes that I've been lucky to teach, is that the independent filmmaker needs a resource to have the film seen, exhibition. Filmmakers today have to have a distribution. And I think the independent filmmakers now must align and coordinate and get together to make their own distribution systems and get rid of the bigger studio distribution. Because as we are now broadcasting what used to be called TV here on YouTube, right? we basically found our distribution. Why
We need
can't you
to
go
do
make a film
Doomsday's
and
Crypt
sell?
distribution.
Yeah, do it. I mean, that's what they do. And so the communities in the various cities can make it. Then they can be a voice out of San Francisco. Remember the San Francisco sound in rock and roll? That was different than the Seattle sound, different from Austin, New York. Why can't we do the same thing for film? Instead of being Korean, it can be the Florida look, or it can be the San Francisco look, or whatever, Chicago. Put it on your own, distribution thing. Do that, and you're going to ring the bell. Then you get seen, and then you do what you're supposed to do, which is create a voice and impact, social movement, and you're saying something instead of just making a film. You can make the film, but
what you mean with the distribution. That is a big problem in the indie community. I mean, they have Tubi, but that's digital. You're not going to make the money, but you need that marketing. You need that distributor that's going to get out there and get that movie moving and people to watch it and people to see it. So I get exactly what you mean with that, because if nobody sees it, doesn't matter how good it is. And there are a lot of independent films. You got to stand out one way or another.
I think colleges should teach more of the business end of the film process, particularly the distribution, and all colleges should have their own servers so that they can put the students' work on the servers and it can be accessed by people globally. And then you can see all this genius that's not being seen. I think it would be terrific.
Yeah. I can't agree any more with you on that one. That's for sure.
All right. So it's pretty amazing. Now I know you have a couple conventions coming up. What are you excited about? Where are you going?
Oh, I know I'm going to Florida, Orlando, about the middle of the month. I think that's 17, 18, someplace in there, something like that. Then the four of us will again go out to Indianapolis and Phoenix.
I'll see you there.
And then I think Detroit. I think there's Detroit coming up.
Oh, yes. We're going to be at, I'm going to be there. I get to shake your hand and say hello. And
cool.
Motor City Nightmares. Motor City Nightmares. Pretty excited about that. Detroit, listen, they love their horror movies in Detroit, Fritz. I'm just telling you right now, you're going to be swamped.
I love it. I want to go to Greek town. I want to eat Greek food. Opa, flaming cheese.
Flaming cheese. I'm ready. I think I was in that movie called Flaming Cheese. No, it's
yeah.
So you'll see Summer will be at Spooky Empire out there from Days of the Dead. So you'll get to see her in Indianapolis. You'll see her in Orlando, and it's always great seeing Summer too. So you'll have a good time there.
She's involved in all of it. Let me tell you about this cool thing that we're doing that I hinted at. And anyone that stuck around to listen to my windbag stories. Because of the 40th anniversary of Korn, Terry Kirby said, we really should do something that would be kind of unique and special for people who really helped make the film, the people of Iowa, Hornigan, Salem, and Whiting, the little cities we were in around Sioux City, where it was all filmed. And the film has gathered the attention of a lot of people. One in particular, a man named John Sullivan, who's become our historian. And he has a website called Children of the Corn, the movie website. And he has collected memorabilia. He's met everybody. He's talked to everybody. He's given tours. He knows about the history. He knows about the inside stories and so forth. And we talked to him. Terry came up with this idea. At the beginning of the film, a woman and I drew the drawings that the affected young girl was allegedly drawing to the clairvoyant kid. And those drawings are under the title credits for each individual, like myself and the producer and the writers and the actors and so forth. Those plates, I have a few of them, and Terry Kirby, producer, has a few of them. We decided that all the casts that we can, and that's why I talked to Linda Hamilton today. She's signing it. Peter Horton signed it. Courtney signed it. John Philbin signed it. John Franklin signed it. I signed it. We might get Marie, what's her name, to sign it as well, Julie Madalena. And then this will be framed and auctioned off for the charity of John's Choice in Iowa. Some community organization will receive the benefit of whatever this memorabilia will raise. And we'll put a reserve on it, a few $1,000s. But we'll probably do a besides promoting it at these conventions, we'll have it. I think it'll be an online thing.
Well, let us know too. We'll make sure we share that out for you all over Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And help it in any way we can to make sure
Cool.
people can get
It is.
I'm going to throw in an early bid of $750 right now. We'll get the ball
You
rolling.
didn't even get the reserve, Brett. It's already a few thousand reserve. You didn't even hit the reserve, sir.
Well, that's okay. But Brett, you and I'll draw you one for $750, darling. You know, I've got the paper
Okay.
still, yeah. I'll sketch one up. You just remind me of something, which is that. Oh, I forgot it. What the hell? It was about the drawing. Who's going to be in it and so forth. Oh, I know what it is. This is important. The woman that was really responsible, we spoke about her, all these cast members, all the people I've been lucky enough to be around. Linda Francis passed away many years ago. Yeah. So we took her plate, number 4, the original is the one we signed. And the framing will include a plate on the front that said in dedication to Linda Francis. So it's her actual title credit dedicated to her from
even
all
though
the
she's
cast.
not able to sign it. She's a part of it, a big part of it.
She's the reason all this cast is there. She's the one that said, I want to introduce you to these people and so forth. So
people don't realize on a side note, people don't realize how important casting is, because you guys are obviously, you're gearing up for a movie. You're checking locations, you're checking everything, and you're relying on these casting directors to put in front of you the people they think are great for the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew exactly who she was.
She had
a lot of good movies.
She had a great sense of talent. You know, she introduced Bob and Spader and Courtney and all those guys. And, you know, she had her opinions on who was good and bad, and we would discuss them, and win or lose, you know, we had a cast. But she was it. And she worked closely with Jeff Greenberg, who ended up casting all the Cheers. And I don't think he did Friends, but I know he did Cheers for years. And
I auditioned for Mr. Greenberg a ton.
Did you?
Yeah, I never got anything with him, but he would bring me in. That's all that matters. That's all you.
The story, I think I've told you, maybe John heard the story, but when Courtney came in on Korn, he came in looking as he looked in the film. He was a scraggly kid, right? But we didn't know it. And the producer and my approach always is to talk with the candidates, with the people for a while, to see how they are in the relaxed acting. You know this, Brent, you know, get along, see what they think, and then do the scene and see if there's a big difference between performance and relaxed behavior, right? You can tell. So when Courtney came in, he was vibed out. He was ready to go. He was the horse in the running thing. He was just, his mind was set on meanness and authority, and he was going to be this guy. And the producer kept talking to him, and I kept saying, leave him alone. He's ready to go. He did the scene with Jeff, and it was a scene of threat, like, I'm taking over. I think, you know, he's usurping power, whatever it is. And out of his back pocket, he pulled out this fucking machete. I don't know how he got it in there, but it was the real thing. And he put it up at Jeff's face. And Jeff just threw his hands up and said, I quit. I'm not working with these people anymore. This is obscene. This guy brought a real weapon in to hurt me. I can't do this anymore. So he and Courtney didn't get along very well from that point on. But I thought Courtney was great. You brought a weapon? You're in. You got the job. How cool is that?
He brought the realism. He brought the real to the screen.
He brought the toy. But yeah, Jeff is wonderful. Another good guy.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, you know, John and me, we do this little show. We try to give a voice to, you know, the independent filmmaker and some actors and producers and other people. And it's when he said you were going to come on, I was like, oh, wow, you know, we got a little nervous. I'm like, wow, you know, the magnificent one is going to be on the show. But you've meant a lot to us as far as your filmmaking and what you've done. Obviously, you give back to the community, of the filmmaking community, and you are a pretty cool cat. And we have been honored to have you on, and anything that we can do to help you in the future.
Thank you. Wow.
We would gladly, and I know John, from the bottom of his heart, he'll push it. We'll push this auction for you. And all I ask, Fritz, is that you put a few more rednecks with tattoos in your movies,
There's
That's
always
all
a
I'm
catch
asking.
with Schwag.
That's all I'm asking.
That we can do. We can put a lot in, this. But hey, are we all going to be in Detroit? Where we all
Just Brett, I am not. I'm not.
You're not going to be there. You're going to be in Phoenix, though.
I'll be in Indianapolis.
But Brett, you won't be there.
No,
So,
yeah. We would love to do every convention together and do as many as we can, but John's got a job. I'm still a working actor, so we can only book so many. And
is that the weekend? I'm in Minnesota, though, the Michigan one, isn't it? Yeah,
I believe we'll be in Detroit, and we'll be in, I think it's Livonia, Michigan. I think that's what it's called. And you will be in Minnesota.
Well, cool. Well, then I'll ask you to sign something for me. I want a Leatherface, a signature, autograph.
You need a sledgehammer. He's got some good ones.
I will get you a bloody sledgehammer that I used I do the first kill in the movie with a bloody sledgehammer, and we will get that. Anything you want signed will be great. I may bring an ear of corn and get you to sign. I gotta imagine you guys have signed corn.
Oh, yeah. Salt and pepper shakers. Yeah. People bring all kinds of things related to it that are just fantastic. I love the energy and the fun. I think it's great. Like you said, it's been a long time this film's been out and people still have an interest in it. It's very fun. Leatherface, same thing, Texas Chainsaw.
50th anniversary.
Yeah.
50th anniversary this year.
Wow. And there's another film that was done on a shoestring, the original, and it impacted. And it goes back to our conversation and our interest in go make the film. Don't worry about all the slick technology and all that stuff. Go do it. But thank you. You guys, it's very nice of you to have me visit. I'll do it anytime. What the hell?
We can talk to you, Fritz, quite a bit. We barely touched the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we barely broke the ice on all the stuff you're doing right now. So we'd love to have you come on again and catch up, especially when your new films come out. Talk about what you got going on. You're always welcome. Can't thank you enough for coming on. It was so great meeting you in Chicago. I even told you I saved you for last. You were the last guest. I made sure I went up and saw. I got those autographs. I sent them I went and saw my sister. I gave them to her because she was a big Children of the Corn fan. Like I said, me and my sisters would watch it. So I thank you truly, and I can't wait to see you in Indianapolis.
Oh, that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to. I've never really been to Indy, so this is going to be a good time. And visit.
We'll have some Children of the Corn.
Detroit,
I might get myself a winner's take all black light deck that I need signed for myself. But we got the Children of the Corn deck. We're going to do some cool stuff, especially now that you're
John, I'm going to bring you one of my storyboards. The guy that I mentioned who has the museum was talking about anything that I may have. And in the garage, I dug around and I saw all my storyboards from Korn and from Winners Take All. I'll bring you one of the hand-drawn ones, the original.
Wow, that would be so cool. What an honor. That's amazing. That's amazing. I can't wait to see it, man. I mean, you guys were honestly so cool.
Got a good one. I'll do that.
You're the man. Yeah. I can't thank you enough, Fritz. It was a real honor meeting you in Chicago. And I was so excited telling Brett that Fritz said he'd love to come on, and we both were stoked because we love actors and actresses, but directors and stuff. There's just something really special about talking to you guys. So thanks, man.
Yeah, and now I get to go to Don Coscarelli and say, Don, Fritz came on before. Okay.
He won't show up? Coscarelli won't show up? He should. He's another good 80s guy. He's another good 80s man.
Say, Don, you dropped the ball. We had to get Fritz on. So
yeah, we had to go for the bench, run in the bench player.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. We had a really packed house tonight. We want to appreciate all the folks for coming on in the chat room. And we will see you on the road. And more importantly, we look forward to your projects coming out.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for showing up. I don't know who was there, but if there's more than 3 people, I'm excited. That's really cool.
We did 3 people for sure.
We had more than 3 people. Yes, we did pretty good tonight.
Oh, good. Good. That's it. Oh, okay. I will see you guys. I'll see you soon.
Peace out. See you, Chet. See you, Brett. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, folks.
Bye.